Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Panel Presents Comic Talk. Today, we're going to catch up with what our guests are doing in quarantine land. We'll find out some firsts from our special guest and our top picks for our favorite shocking moments in comics. It's all coming up next on Comic Talk. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Comic Talk, where we get together with a panel of guests to talk all about our favorite print medium. With us today is the Duchess of Free Comic Book Day, Ashton Greenwood.
Hey, guys.
Social media guru for Previews World, Troy Jeffrey Allen, a.k.a. Delete Button Killer.
I guess all that needs to be said.
And our special guest today has done work for DC, Marvel, IDW, Image, Lucasfilm, Hasbro, Mattel. I mean, there's so many. So please welcome artist Ken Lashley.
Yay. Round of applause.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
Welcome, everyone. How's everyone doing?
I like that. That's nice. I like that.
Doing cool.
Yeah, everyone kind of surviving out there right now?
Existing.
Yeah. I hit a point where I got tired of being a potato, so I'm trying to work out now, and it's. I think I'd rather be a potato.
Yeah, can agree.
Yeah, potato life is good.
Here for it.
Well, before we get into the show, I want to talk to Ken a little bit about your work. So, how did you get into comics? Not as a fan, but as a working artist.
I was very fortunate. I was in Toronto, and I had an opportunity to go to a show. It was like a comic convention, like everybody else, and it was a small thing at Masonic. I think it's a Masonic Temple. I'm not sure exactly where it was, but I met this guy named Mark Asquith, and he was a producer of a TV show that featured on comic books and talked about comic books. And I showed my work to him. He thought it was pretty good, and then he was doing interviews at Marvel Comics the following week for his show, and he took it with him, and I got a job. I showed around. Marvel really liked it. And I got a few offers that day, and the first job I took was Excalibur. So that was the early 90s, probably, early 90s. Back in 2003 is when I got hired. This cover is really funny, the first one you showed here, because it actually had a bottom to it. It was like grabbing onto like some kind of, it was like dirt. It was in this forest, and they wanted to change the setting, but they didn't have time for me to redraw the bottom. So that's why it has this weird cutoff across the bottom. It should be, in the dirt. It's actually pretty interesting. That's pretty wild.
That's amazing.
That's one of my. Well, it was one of those things where the early 90s, where pretty much anybody could get a job back then. It wasn't that difficult to get a job. I'd be honest. There was a lot of reprints and specialty covers and comics everywhere. There was a collector's market, so there was lots of opportunity. And I was fortunate to get hired and draw Excalibur. Also, what's cool about it is I also got a chance to work on group books and X-Men group books. And I remember them telling me when I first got started, goes, "Hey, Ken, Excalibur is slated to be canceled." And I was like, "Oh, whatever." Like, I was happy to get a job. And cutoff back then was 100,000 copies. Like, if you sold 100,000, and Excalibur was selling about 115, so it was like, it was getting close to being cancellation, which is bizarre when you think about numbers now, right? So, but it didn't get canceled. I stayed on because I guess people resonated with my work, and I stayed on there for a bit.
Wow! So you mentioned that's amazing. Like that, I love those stories of how people got started, and then now you've done X-Men, you've worked on Spider-Man, Black Panther. So many Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, Flash. And now you're working on Spawn.
That's what happens when you get old in the comic business. You just keep working on lots of stuff, right?
But that's awesome.
Well, I'm very fortunate. It's really cool. I mean, I was working on Spider-Man for the neighborhood with Tom Taylor, and it was really cool. And I was sort of like doing bit work because I was doing other stuff. And then all of a sudden I decided I got an opportunity to work on it. Actually, you know what? I'm going to tell the truth. Can I tell the truth here?
Sure.
Okay, the truth is it's my daughter's fault, because I was working at DC on a relaunch of some books, and it was taking a long time to get going. And I was kind of just a little bit kind of bored with what I was working at DC. And my daughter wanted to go see Spider-Verse. And I was like, yeah, I would like to, but it's sort of like one of those things. I'm kind of like, I don't know, kid, I'm busy. I really got a lot of work to do. and she was like, she gave me the look, the I'm not always going to be living here look. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, all right. So I just came downstairs, got changed. She goes, where are you going? I go, I'm going to see the movie. Come on. And when I went to see Spider-Man, I was blown away by it, and I was just taken aback. So I posted about it. I said how much I loved that movie and how great it was, and it was just amazing. It was just beautiful. And then Marvel reached out to me and said, "Hey, you want to draw Spider-Man?" And I was like, "Cool, yeah." So yes, and so every time my daughter talks to anybody, she goes, "Yeah, well, I got him that job because if he didn't go, I didn't make him go. There's no way that he would have got that job." So. So, but after I did that for a while, I did that for about a year. I just really wanted to do my own thing, my own series, something that I could wake up every morning and do. And I met Tom McFarlane a few years prior to that, and we talked a bit about doing some other work because he got a toy license, and I'm a toy designer guy. I work for Hasbro. The conversation evolved, and then he said, "Hey, you want to take on the book?" And I said, "Sure." So drawing spawned us crazy. We had a 45-minute conversation about how to draw capes, which was amazing.
Okay.
That's very important when talking to Todd McFarlane.
Right.
Oh, no joke. But it was pretty amazing because, you draw capes the way you draw capes, but he has a very specific way that he does things. So, and I was very much, this is really interesting to talk to somebody, of his caliber and to basically talk to them and just sort of like talk to him. It was basically show and tell for artists, right? It was an amazing opportunity. So it was pretty cool.
That is awesome.
That's really cool because you get it right from the source. You know exactly how he wanted it. That's as a cosplayer, I appreciate that availability to the source.
That's what I mean. Like you're going for the he said, "Hey, let's do a screen share, Ken. Let's do a screen share," and I was like, "Yeah, okay, let's do this." You know what I mean? So we're sharing screens, and he's showing me what. Oh, check out this and check out that. I'm doing this. I'm doing this cover. Check out this toy. I'm like, this is the coolest. No one's gonna believe this. I'm gonna take a picture. So when he was talking, I went. I'm not joking. I totally did that. Whatever. You would do it too. So I was totally having a good time. It was just a fun experience, and there's also, I have very few times in your life you get a script where it says, "Draw something cool," and I was like, "What?" Really, it's like
that's real.
It was like, draw Spawn fighting these demons, make it cool. And I was like, "Oh, I love this job. I love it."
Done.
Right? Oh my god, it's so good. Especially when you work, I work with Guggenheim, and their scripts are so great, but freedom is not exactly one of the things that you get in it. You get the freedom to make your own choices. But imagine saying 2-page fight, Spawn fighting demons, cool. And I'm like, oh, this is great. This is good.
All right. Actually, from a distance, I can actually co-sign that because I have read. There's a book of Spider-Man creator interviews where they talk to different writers, and they talk to everybody's giving these really intricate, stories about their process. And Todd McFarlane's like, "Yeah, I just go, well, this would be cool, and that would be cool, and this would be cool," and then he just kind of figures out the order.
I think, if I remember correctly, this might be. I don't know how I feel about this, but one of the things he's actually said was, think of how cool this page would be, think of to sell it afterwards. And I'm like, what? I've never heard a writer ever say, imagine what the aftermarket will think about this. You know what I mean? And I was like, that's really neat because sometimes you draw pages and some of them are chicken dinners and some of them are bologna sandwiches, right? That's just what happens, right? So you have to sort of decide, right? But I've never had a script where it says, "Okay, this page is going to be this is the page. Let's go," right? And I was like, "Okay, cool, right?" So, it's fun. It's fun.
Oh, I'm super excited to see that.
How long are you on Spawn, Ken?
It's right here. It's right there. The whole book. So right.
Oh, really?
I'm not gonna show it.
Wow.
I can tell you where it is, but I can't.
How long are you planning to be on Spawn, Ken?
Well, I signed. I was okay. I wasn't.
Or what can you tell us?
Yeah, I'm trying to get around the bush, but I think it was supposed to be a few issues, but then the contract came and it was open ended.
Okay.
All right. I'll leave it. It's sort of like.
Right.
All right. Well, we won't get Ken into any more trouble. Spawn 309 is slated to come out in August of this year, so I'm sure there'll be plenty of comic book fans anxious to go out and read that.
Yeah.
And speaking of reading, let's get into our first segment where we find out what our guests are reading or podcasting or watching or creating. It's time for What Are You Doing? So we want to ask each of our guests, what are you doing? We want to know what you're reading, watching, podcasting, creating, whatever you're doing to pass the time in quarantine land. And to all of those of you watching, let us know in the comments what you're doing by using hashtag what are you doing. So let's start with you, Ashton.
Ooh, me. Okay. So I've spent a significant amount of time playing a game called Stardew Valley, which is like a farming RPG simulator. And you like own your own farm, and it's like this wholesome little game, and you like have animals and crops, and you like have this whole town of people to meet. But my favorite thing about this game, part of the reason why I'm obsessed with it, is that's totally just a mask for like all of these larger underlying issues. So like you're in this little town, but like the country that this town is in is being invaded by a bigger country, and like one of the townspeople has PTSD and like lashes out at his wife. And there's also like a Amazon-esque corporation that's trying to like strip mine the town. And you have not one, but two town drunks. And the mayor is having an affair with one of the ranchers in town. So
you started off and I was like, man, this sounds like Animal Crossing. And then it just went there.
Right, yeah.
That is so crazy. I love it.
Were you tweeting about this? Were you tweeting about this early in the week, Ashton? I think I saw you post something, and it was like very scandalous.
Yeah.
It took me a minute. I was like, "Who is she talking about?" Oh, this is a video game. Never mind.
Yeah.
I've heard of the game, but I wasn't too interested in it. And then you just like got me on that. I'm like, all right, now I have to try this out.
It's really fun.
What about you, Ken? What are you up to right now?
Oh my! It's so weird. I mean, my daughter has found my old video. I used to have a video. Okay, the room that I'm in right now used to be my video game room before I had kids. So I had a big TV in here with like, a switcher box, but switch between all the systems. Like I had like 7 different systems and all this stuff. So my daughter found that in my storage locker. And she said, "Oh, do these work?" And I don't know. It's been years. So she plugged them all back in, and they all work. So now she has the switcher box down in the basement. It's crazy. It's like 2001 down there. It's crazy. So I said, well, let's download a game. So we downloaded a game called Outside. That game is messed up. It's like you're being chased by this corporation, and it's all these there's bodies everywhere. It's just the most bizarre game. And we finished it last night. I'm just watching it, and it ended terribly. And I was making jokes the whole time when we're playing the game. I go, "Watch this. This is good. This is the type of game that has this kind of ending." And both my daughters were laughing. And at the end, it had that kind of ending. And I was just like, and they're both looking at me, and I go, "I'm sorry, kid, but that's that's the way it works, right?" But it's just so bizarre. As far as comic books are, and I'm getting trades. I went back and grabbed some trades every time. I'm a trade guy because I don't have time to get single issues. It's hard to find, so I just grabbed some trades. So I'm reading this one.
Oh, nice.
Start of this.
Yeah, good.
And I got this, and I'm doing that soon. These are the 2 that I have that I'm going to be reading, and then I have Old Faithful that I read this probably once a year. I read this once a year. Those are my go-to. I like trades. I like comics in general. Let's be real. I mean,
what was that last one, Ken? You said there's a little bit of glare.
Next Wave. Right?
Next Wave. Yeah, the almighty Next Wave.
Yeah, I love that.
Right.
I love the art in this.
Yeah, Stuart Eminem just destroys.
The best, and that's what I'm doing. That's TV shows. Who has time for that? I'm watching the Jordan thing, which is amazing, but that's wholly everything else.
The documentary, is that what you're talking
about? Yeah, I'm a high school football coach.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
I'm kind of the mean coach. Yeah, I'm the well, I have a bit of a background in the sport, so I'm hard. I'm sort of like I'm one of those coaches. Like, you do something great on the field. I go, well, what were you supposed to do? You know what I mean? I'm that kind of coach. So, it's good to see the psychology behind. Oh, it's amazing what happened behind the scenes at that time. Watching them and seeing all the stuff going on behind the scenes it's pretty amazing. I'm enthralled by it. Pretty cool.
It's actually refreshing to see that Jordan wasn't a great guy all the time. Like, I feel like he had like a certain persona, like that just was throughout the 90s, early 2000s. Not to make this about basketball, but to see him.
Okay. Let's be honest. Let's be 100% honest. If you were the best in the world at something, and someone told you were the best in the world at something,
everybody,
some of that has to seep into who you are.
Right.
Like, ego. Like, can you imagine like someone said, "Oh, you're the greatest artist to ever walk the face of the earth"? I'd be like, well. Like, you just can't. It's impossible for it not to be a little bit. Putting his hand on the guy and saying, "Well, don't worry about it. Well, I won't make you lose. Let you lose your first game." That's just like he's not playing at the high school level. He's playing with the NBA players, and he just said, "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it." It's just how could you not be a little bit affected by that? So I don't fault him for that. I always say this. I tell you my players this. I go, it's okay to drink your Kool-Aid, just don't guzzle it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's all good.
Nice. I like that.
Get a little confidence.
Yeah. All right, Troy, are you doing anything that involves evil corporations? Because it seems like that's the running theme going on.
So what? Well, first of all, I just want to point this out because it's weird. I'm doing physical therapy right now, and I have to still go into my physical therapist's office with a mask on and participate. And they did this thing called cupping to my back. Yeah, which is really weird. And so now my back looks like I got into a fight or was making out with a mayonnaise jar. I don't quite understand. I don't quite understand how it's supposed to help my shoulder, but there you go. Outside of that, I have not been playing nearly enough Doom Eternal, so I'm gonna try to correct that after the stream. And actually, first of all, I want to point out that my username is in honor of Ken. Because his Twitter handle, and I think his handle everywhere else, is Lead Killer. Maybe he'll regale us with that story later. But I actually decided to support my local comic shop by ordering something through their eBay store this past week. And it was actually the issue of Black Panther that Ken did, featuring Shuri's first appearance. First appearance as the Black Panther, which is one of my favorite Black Panther stories. So I didn't run out. I was going to run out to the mailbox and get. There it is. Okay, cool. Thank you, Johnny. I was going to run out to the mailbox and get it before I came in here because it showed up yesterday. But I have not. But it is waiting for me. So I'm excited to just kind of revisit that because I love the story and I love the artwork. So
I can tell you a story about that one. I'll tell you a funny story about that. So they say,
please.
Ken, you want to draw Black Panther? It's your lifelong dream, isn't it? I go, oh my God, I would love. Oh, I can't tell you how much I love this. It's the greatest thing all time. And then I get the script and I go, oh, so in the first 5 pages he gets messed up, and then it's his sister.
Right.
This is a double cross, man. This is a double cross.
Although I will say.
But it turned out pretty good because the script got really good. But my first initial reaction was like, "Oh no, I have to make a phone call. I have to make a phone call." But it worked out. See, I got the Lead Killer. I got to turn around for you, buddy.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, it's like, it was one of those great jobs. But it was cool. It was cool. But at the same time, it was my first initial thoughts were, but then it got really good after that. It was amazing, But I got a lot of Black Panther in. We got to read the book. It's pretty crazy.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, like, T'Challa gets got pretty quickly, but it's pretty epic. It involves Dr. Doom and like some of the Dora Milaje, and it's just.
Why are you giving away the story, man?
I mean, it's the first issue, so it gets better from there.
Okay,
no spoilers.
The really cool stuff. There's a page in that. And I remember, there's a page of Dr. Doom, and they fight in there, and there's all this dialogue in it. And after I submitted the artwork, Marvel was like, we're going to take out the dialogue in this page. It's so strong the way you told the story. So all the dialogue is taken out of this one scene. So it's a whole page is Doom standing. Well, I'm not gonna tell. Well, when you get to it, you'll know. Oh, there's nothing on this page, and then they just let the artwork speak for itself. And I think I got all the notes they were looking for. So I mean, it was great working with Reggie Hudlin because you got to kind of do whatever you want. He was such a guy going, "Hey, man, just do what you got to do, man." And it was a great experience. That was probably what I get asked about the most. That and Doomsday are the two things I get asked about the most in my career.
No, I love it. It's epic. I'm actually looking forward to cracking it open because I have never owned it, and I've read it. I read it when I was working in the comic shop, and truth be told, I put it back on the shelf. I was like, I'll get the trade later, and I never got it, so I'm buying it now.
Petty.
I mean, perks of working at a comic book store.
You guys. It was really nice talking to you guys. I got some stuff to do, okay?
I was saving it for a buying customer because I worked there. So there you go.
Oh, gosh.
Okay.
All right, well, before Troy ends up ending this interview early,
Right. Foot and mouth.
What have we got in the audience? What is the audience doing? Have we got some comments? Like Carrie, Ashton out here with the good taste in Stardew Valley.
Yes. My favorite thing that Carrie ever suggested to me was to put on the Stardew Valley soundtrack to work to. It is perfect.
Yeah, Carrie says, I have the 4-record vinyl album. There's an album?
Wow.
I didn't know it was vinyl. That's crazy.
Yeah, like an LP on top of that. That's crazy.
Awesome.
From Brian Spencer, just finished working on a prop for a cosplay photo shoot. Nice. Very cool.
Thank you.
Josh.
Love the work they put into it.
Ken's art piece he did to raise money for BINC is incredible.
Ooh.
Oh, wait. Does he have it? Ooh.
Oh, whoa.
Whoa.
Wow.
There's so much detail.
Awesome. Yeah. This is why he's one of the best.
That's incredible.
Got to put him out there. Hey, look, it just got better. I didn't even see the Wolverine until now. It just got better.
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that is gorgeous.
No, I actually have been doing because this doesn't go to the Canadian bookstore. It doesn't go to the Canadian stores for support. So for me, it's important that I do something for I'm in Canada, so I want to make sure that the local stores are taken care of. So I've got a couple stores that I've already done work for. Was Heroes World in Markham, great guy. Andre, love that dude. He's been a big supporter of mine for years. I even crashed his free comic day one day. I didn't tell him I was coming. I just showed up. It was pretty cool. I did.
No.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna show up, man. At first he's like, "Thanks for coming, Ken," but of course I didn't know you're coming, so I'm not prepared. You know what I mean? So it was good. I had a good time. I spent like 5 hours there drawing for all the fans. It was really fun. And then I did Freak Show Comics in Niagara Falls, and then which is good friends of mine. I've known them for a lot of years. And then I did Need a Hero Comics in Belleville is the next show I'm doing. And actually, I have the piece of art. Do you want to see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I was like, yeah, Ken, show that. So this is what I'm auctioning off this weekend.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Wow. Oh my God.
That's really cool. I like the Joker in the background.
Yeah, the Joker's cool.
Yeah, no Wolverine in the bottom of this one, lads. No.
Batman will suffice.
I appreciate it. So that's pretty cool.
Now, where can people bid on those?
I'm going to have this one in my group, so anybody can join my group. It's open to the public. I don't have a closed group, so to speak. So, I mean, I don't have it that way. So I just have it open, and, it's actually fun. So it'll be noon on Saturday. No, it's noon on Sunday. It'll start. And then we'll go for 2 days, two full days, and the top bid wins. And also, if you win, you also get to control the live stream later on in the week. So you get to pick whatever character you want, and I'll do it live, and then that also ends up in the package when they send it out to you. So it works out. So you get 2 drawings for the one. So,
art and power.
Right?
Art and power.
I think Josh really wants it. So
yeah, he clearly does. What's the name of the group? It's on Facebook. Is it?
Art of Ken Lashley, aka Let Killer.
Okay, cool.
All right, perfect. All right, let's move into our next segment, guys, and we're gonna go into firsts.
You always remember your first.
So anyone who knows comics knows that I'm not gonna laugh. Knows that fans really love their first issues and first appearances. For first, we talk about some of the momentous comic book firsts that happened in our lives. For this episode, we want to ask our special guest something that Ashton and Troy have both talked about on the show before. So we're going to focus on what we want to know. What was the first comic book you read? And for those of you that are watching, let us know in the comments what your first comic book was by using #first. So Ken, if I've heard correctly, your first comic was about a character that you eventually ended up working on years later.
Yeah. My first one was a Spider-Man issue. And I'm trying to remember exactly. I think it was the one that was Spider-Man. I was oldest to Spider-Man. I came a little bit later in life to that. So I had other books. I just never had comics really growing up. A lot of them. But then when I got into it, I got into it. It was a Spider-Man. He was an issue of Spider-Man where the guy was a football player, and he had to grab a little kid and run across the football field. I think it's 130 something. I can't remember exactly the number. It was in that area. But I remember the cover was the guy Spider-Man jumping across, holding the little child, and people shooting guns and ricocheting off the post. That was the very first comic that I read. But the first one that I really remember that was really mine was my mom bought me a Black Panther issue and said, "I know you like comic books. You should." I saw this at the store. You should. I'll buy this for you. And it was Black Panther versus the KKK, which I thought was, and it was a very strong story. And of course, as a kid, I did not really understand the context of it. But it was one of the first books I remember reading, and that was it. From there, I was hooked. So anytime a comic book, came about, I was gonna buy it. We think of Becker's, which is like a local variety store, and that's where all my comics came from. I didn't go to a comic book store until I was in college. But I was definitely, so all my comics had creases across where they were in the sleeve and bent and crushed. And I didn't believe in bags. What were bags? I didn't even have boxes for them. I just used to put in shoe boxes. It was just one of those weird things, that that was my first time was Spider-Man was the first book I read, but the first book that I was my own book was Black Panther.
Now, you said before that first comic came from a spinner rack.
Yeah.
So what was the first comic shop that you actually visited?
It was the first comic shop I ever went to was probably the Silver Snail in Toronto. I was in college, and I was in there going, "What is this? There's 2 floors. This is one of the biggest, looking back, it was one of the greatest experiences. It was one of the biggest stores in Canada, I think. I mean, probably the biggest still. But it was 2 floors downtown Toronto. It was like, what is this? Was crazy. And it was like 3 blocks away from this college I was going to. So I mean, I had never been in a comic store. I've only been, bought my thing from a spinner racker. So to go in there and see all the different things, I was in there for hours. And I spent a lot of money in there. All the extra money I had and some of the money I didn't have, I spent a lot of money. I spent a lot of money in that store. And it was cool because I went back there and did a signing like when I became a professional. So it's such a weird thing. But I knew I'd made it in comic books when I went back to the same Beckers years later that I first got, and I saw my artwork in the spinner rack.
Oh, wow.
That was it was like, what the heck, A little tear. I was a little bit, but it was pretty amazing experience to go from a little kid buying stuff from that same store to going back in there. And they're family friends, like they're friends. And I haven't seen you so long, Ken, what you been doing? I said, I'm working at Marvel Comics. Here's my book. It's like, what? It's just, it was a great experience. It was so crazy. Think about how life works,
All right, yeah.
Oh, that's such a wholesome story. I love it.
Right.
All right, I'm gonna.
No crying. All right.
Always crying in comics.
There is actually. There is. All right. What have we got in the comments section? See, Nick, first issue I remember was the issue number X-Men 141.
141. Okay, that's like
that was right in the thick of it.
Yeah, that's like Burn Claremont or Cockrum Claremont. I think
it's Burn.
It's Burn. Yeah.
141. I think that's the cover with like all the different stories into one. 143. No, 143. Yeah, 143 was his last John Byrne X-Men.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, it was Days of Future Past. Okay. Nice.
Yeah, that's like ridiculous. That's your first issue?
Yeah.
You must not know what going on. He's like, what's happening here? What's happening? Yeah. I remember reading that and going, what is going on?
Yeah,
I
100%.
love
See,
it.
we got Genie with DC Blue Devil 1, June of 1984.
Nice.
Ooh.
Anton, it was a Marvel team up with Wes Cedron, the Dinosaur Man, and the Black Panther and Spider-Man.
That's a lot of team up there.
Yeah.
Wow.
And from Raphael, Ken, you have such a unique style for shading. Who was your inspiration for that? Ooh, good question.
That's a good question.
The Deadline, I think, was the inspiration. Like, Ken, you got to get this done, so let's roll, right? So I was a big John Byrne fan growing up, like everybody in the planet. You know, if you read comics in that time, you're. It's funny because people were either a Perez fan or a John Byrne fan.
That's very true. Yeah.
It was very weird. Like there was no mixing going back then. You couldn't be a DC or a Marvel guy. It was like it's like, you know, which your favorite NFL team? You have to pick one. You can't have two, right? So so I was definitely a hardcore John Byrne fan. So but my stuff really doesn't feel that way. I don't think it's much more. I think I'm leaning towards like the Silvestri Jim Lee sort of look. I don't know if people see that, but I get that a lot. You know, I get this weird terminology all over. You're like, I'm the Black Jim Lee, which is so weird to me.
That's very weird.
It's so weird, but I have got that a lot. I get that a lot, right? So even this image I put up, I just showed you. People were saying, "Oh, Jim, this looks great," and Jim had to say, "No, that's Ken Lashley," and I'm thinking, "Yeah, it's great. That's cool, right? For me, but probably not for him." but for me, it's great. But I mean, for me, it's I see different things in my work, but I'd say my shading probably comes from immediacy and how to draw things so that it can be inked properly. So that, I mean, I used to do this feathering, try to render it, and the inker wouldn't know what to do with it, right? It's just like, I don't know what he wants here. This is just crazy. So I started to do it thicker and more angular, so it would be easier to ink, and that sort of became more of my style. Because and then I can do like that piece I showed earlier. I did that in like 5 hours. Before that would take me a day and a half. So because I'm understanding more about what I'm doing, I'm becoming a professional, I should say. So where it comes from being fast, being able to figure it out so that it goes so it can be done, reproduced, which is what the job is, reproducing things so they can be easily shot onto film, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does.
Really cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now that we've learned that, let's move on to our last segment, Top Picks. All right. For this round of Top Picks, we want to ask you, what are your top shocking moments in comic books? These are your favorite WTF moments in comics. And you can let us know in the comments by using hashtag Top Picks. Let's start with Troy this time. What's your favorite comic book shocker?
As usual, I'm going to overdo it. I have two. and they come from
the X-Men.
Not really. It's not really X-Men. So, but I'll put it under the X-Men category. But yes, it comes from the mighty IKEA shelf of comics and trade paperbacks and pulp novels and diet books on top of that. But yeah, like I would say the first thing that came to mind when I saw this question came from Illuminati. The new Avengers Illuminati series by Brian Michael Bendis and Olivia Coipel. I'm sorry. Actually, this is Jim Cheung, not Coipel. My bad. And it actually happens in the last story arc. So the concept behind the Illuminati is like all these major players in the Marvel universe has been conspiring for decades for the good of humanity. At least they feel they're doing it for the good of humanity. And it's all your favorite characters. It's Iron Man, it's Professor Xavier, it's Namor the Submariner, it's Doctor Strange, it's Reed Richards, and it's Black Bolt. And so they kind of go back in time and show you how the decisions of the Illuminati have influenced major Marvel events that you are already familiar with. But the last issue sets up Secret Invasion. And the way they do this is you have this character Black Bolt who never speaks, because when he speaks, like it's basically just, it destroys anything in front of him. Like his voice lays waste to anything and everything. It's more than a sonic boom. It's like devastating. And so the concept behind Secret Invasion is that like certain characters from the Marvel universe are getting picked off by the Skrulls, who are shapeshifters, and they replace those characters. So what we get in the last issue is the Illuminati are arguing over how they're going to handle this Skrull problem, and then Black Bolt is silent, as he normally is, and then in the middle of the conversation he goes, "Actually, I have a better idea. And I don't know if you can see the reaction at the bottom here, but it's priceless because everyone's having that, oh, you know what moment all at the same time. And the very next page, and as a reader, you're like, what the? On the very next page is, like I said, devastation.
Ooh.
So, yeah, the Illuminati. The next one, I'll make this one quick, but the next one is actually one that, I'll be honest, this is the reason that I wasn't on the Batman Hush episode of the panel. But at the time, as a cliffhanger, it was pretty impactful, which is the last page of Batman Hush, where they revealed that potentially Jason Todd was Hush. And this is the black and white version. So this is like the pencils that Jim Lee originally did, accompanied by the captions by Jeff Loeb. But I remember reading that last page, and Jason Todd is a divisive character, but to have him come back at that point in time after so many years of being dead, and then to finally realize, like, oh, well, to think that he's Hush was kind of like, whoa. And that was like a cliffhanger to end all cliffhangers. Like, that was the longest month at my comic shop that I could think of. So those are my two.
Nice picks. Good picks. What about you, Ashton? What do you have as your top picks?
Okay, so the first one that came to mind, similar to Troy, first thing that came to mind was Undiscovered Country #2, and I actually talked about this briefly last week when Aaron was on. But in Undiscovered Country, it's a futuristic dystopian world in which the U.S. has mysteriously shut its borders after 30 years. Nobody knows why. Coincidentally, there's a pandemic with no cure. So they break into America to find the cure, to find that it's basically Fury Road in there, extremely Mad Max. And so they find this small group of people of what is left of old America, so to speak. And they have this map to get into the center of America, find the cure, etc. They're up against this guy called the Destiny Man, who is an absolute thorn in the side of these heroes. They spend the entire first and second issue running from him, scheming to get away from him, trying to get around him. And then in the very last page of episode 2, here goes our hero Daniel walking himself in to see the Destiny Man. It's just like, a deal's a deal, here I am. And did he not just spend 2 issues trying to avoid this? And I was so shocked that he did that the first time I read this, that I didn't even realize that he's got tattooed on his abdomen the literal map, and it's the same right here on the Destiny Man. Right.
Was this the last issue before the pause in distribution, Ashton?
No, there's 3 more after this.
Because I would say that would be the ultimate cliffhanger if that was the case.
No. That would suck. All right, what about you, Ken? What is your big comic book shocker?
Well, it's funny because of how I got my comics. I never really went to a comic shop and got them in order, right? So I always got them out of sequence. So reading comics, I always seemed to get the trade, so the shock value wasn't the same. But as a comic professional, I've read scripts where I've gone, holy crap, are you serious, right? And one of the things that I did early on in my career was it was Age of Apocalypse. Now, Age of Apocalypse was, the story of, Xavier dies and the Apocalypse wins and the whole, everything is messed up in the whole world. But I did a double page spread, which is very interesting. I did a double page spread, and it was to reveal who Nightcrawler's father was, right? So, and it was this crazy double page spread, and they since have changed it, but at the time, it was Sabretooth.
Oh,
right?
Wow.
Sabretooth and Mystique, and then, so I did this double page spread, and they actually worded it with him revealing it, and then when they decided to change the story, and so it never came out. No, it never. They decided to change the story. Then that's not what they wanted to tell. But the original artwork has the dialogue on it, right? So it's really one of those cool things that. And I remember reading it at the time, going, "Whoa, that's super cool!" But it was more cool that they didn't do it, because then it became sort of like, "I have this page, and check this out." Right?
Right.
Behind the scenes, the thing. But one thing about reading scripts is reading scripts is amazing. So because you get to envision what it's going to look like, right? So when you get some of these cliffhangers, like Doomsday, when I did the Superman Doomsday book, where he gets infected and he becomes like Doomsday. When you're reading these scripts, you're like, oh, and then at the end you're like, oh my god! But then it's up to you to make it come to life. So the cliffhangers are great, but it's also not very, like, you don't get the chance to live in that moment because you got to draw it. So a part of you reading it, you're excited, but then you realize, okay, how am I going to do this and give it the gravitas that it needs? So I think the thing about becoming a professional is it's not so much drawing cool pictures, it's giving each thing the gravity and weight that it deserves. And that's what lends itself into these moments that we're talking about, where it's like phenomenal. That piece of artwork you just showed, where it's just showing the tattoo, and the person who read that, did do that drawing, was thinking about that image all the way while they're doing the other pages, thinking, how am I going to make this really strong so it doesn't, the weight of it, has impact. I mean, I love that. So that's really the part of the job that I love the most, is adding impact and weight to a story. I mean, that's part of it.
No, absolutely. No, you
That's
guys are storytellers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really unique perspective, actually, because, you get to kind of see the story before it's actually the story that we all know. So how hard is it for you to, like, not say anything sometimes if something's coming up?
Okay. So I've worked on some stuff, right? So, and seen some stuff, and I work for the toy brand. So I work for Hasbro and some other places. And remember, you're 2 years out, making toys, or a year at least. When you work on something like the Avengers, and they say, this is what's going to happen, these are the toys we're going to make, these are the toys we're not going to make because these characters don't survive, your brain goes, what? There are just moments when you're working in toys and comic books where you just go, what did you say? Stop the meeting. What I mean? Like, I've done that. It's just, and then you have to sit on these. Okay, I'll tell you a quick story. This is nowhere live. This is the fun. I go to Hasbro a lot for different brands. I went for Hasbro to work on something, and so the person who brought me in, a good friend of mine, he is also in charge of the Star Wars line, the Black Series, right? So we're just sitting there, and then when they're making, so Force Awakens is about to come out, so he has all of the toys there, like the whole toy line is there, and of course, all the names, everything is there. You're trying, and I'm trying not to go into there because I don't want it to be ruined for me. I don't want to go in that room. I'm not going to go in that room, like, under any circumstance. So I was there for 3 days. We go for dinner on one of my last nights, and he's just talking, and he goes, do you want to know what happens? I said, no, I don't want to know what happens. I don't want to know what happens at all. And he's like, what if I told you one thing? And of course I'm weak now. I'm weak, right? So I go, okay. Tell me one thing, just one thing. That's it. Just tell me one thing. He goes, Han Solo dies.
Of all the things to tell you.
Yeah, that's
right.
You. I go, what is wrong with you? What kind of person are you? You could have told me anything.
The worst.
So I was like, so I call my wife and I say, hey, and she was like, how the meeting is going? I go, they're good, they're great, everything's good. I said, Han Solo dies in the next Star Wars film, and I hang up. and then she calls me back and she says, what kind of person are you? I go, hey, marriage is about sharing.
It's like, I'm taking her down too.
Yeah, that's how many years later I'm still paying for that.
Oh my
God.
God.
What I'm saying is that, but like, I have all of this knowledge and things that happen and who at Endgame. Then I worked on Avengers and Endgame and all these other things, and they're showing me all the rollouts, and don't do this character because he doesn't, they don't make it, or do this one because this is what they look like, and here's Fat Thor, and like here's this that. I'm like, what? And I kept saying is, you got to make a Fat Thor figure. I mean, like, you got to make Dad bod Thor. 100%.
Yes, we do.
We're not sure. And there was like this whole conjecture, and I go, listen, man, can't bring me all the way here from Canada and not make a figure that looks like me. Like, come on now, right? So, but it's these are the things, and I'm like probably a year and a half out, like 2 years out. So you sit there and you do these interviews and you're thinking, and of course, my daughter, they know that I know all these things. So I try not to tell them. So, and then I worked on Endgame. I worked on both of them, right? Doing some work, and you get to read some of the stuff. So I know how it ends. So then I'm sitting there with my daughter when the third one comes out. She says, "Don't tell me, don't tell me." And I was like, "Oh, well, I was going to tell you anyway." So we go see Infinity War and how it ends. And my daughter on the edge of her seat, and she's in tears. And I realize I'm a bad father, right? So I'm just sitting there looking at her, and she's just like having a moment. So we get in the car, and she says, "I have to know. I have to know how it ends.
Oh,
I have to know." And I went, "I'm gonna let you sleep on it first. And if you still feel that way in the morning, I'll tell you some things, but I can't tell you everything."
Yeah.
So she goes, "Okay, that's good. So calm down first." So then we go this morning, 8:00. I need to know. I need to know. And right. So I told her some things that put her at rest, and she was like, "That's not much better, but at least I can go on with my life now." But there was I didn't tell her the good stuff. I just told her a couple of things, But I mean, that's the nature of my business. You get behind the velvet rope, and you get to see some things that you wish you didn't see. I went on the set of Suicide Squad and saw the scene where Harley Quinn's on the rooftop. I was there when they filmed that scene. It was pretty amazing, right? So, and I met the directors because the crew wanted me to do a gift from the crew to the last day of filming. So I did a drawing for him of the actors, and they stopped production, and I gave it present, and I took a picture with them, and I'm thinking, this is the coolest day ever, right? So, I mean, you get a chance to see these things and go behind and meet some cool people, So trust me, it's an awful experience, but amazing at the same time.
That's
I believe
awesome.
it.
That really
it.
is.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know how we're gonna follow that up, but let's see what we got in the comments.
I feel like I've been through something.
I know. Grossinator 9 says, always tough on huge moments to separate work from fandom.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Let's see. When Spider-Man grew Anton says, when Spider-Man grew 2 extra arms and the classic 100 and 101, would Morbius the living vampire, and probably in the end of Planet Hulk, where the planet is practically destroyed, the Hulk loses his new wife, and all he has is revenge on his mind.
Are these shocking moments? Is that what this is? Okay.
Yeah, these are all the shocking moments. So yeah. See, Janine, we've got top picks, the Why the Last Man, #monkey poop. I had just started collecting again, so newly discovering indies like Vertigo.
Oh, wait, wasn't Why the Last Man? Wasn't the reason he was alive is because of the monkey poop or something like that? I can't remember exactly. It's been a while since I read that.
Yeah, I think it's been a while.
Yeah.
Let's see. Scott says, don't know top shocking moments for me in comics, but Hush series was the first series I read that seemed to shock me right and left. It really was. That was a really good one. I'm glad we did that on the panel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was crazy, man. But I'm old now. At that point, I was like, yeah, it's cool. You see a lot of different things in your life.
Look at Josh. Josh is trying to get Ken in trouble with Spawn information. Look at him trying to be a spy.
I'm gonna tell the truth right there. He's black. That's all I got to say.
Plot twist.
Right.
There's a twist in there. I don't know.
Spoilers from 1992 or whatever.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna get in trouble. All right, well, we're coming to the close of our show, but before
Oh, the back of it.
Awesome?
Oh, that's the view we get.
Oh, wait, we're getting a little bit of the front.
No, you're not.
All right, before we go.
I'm not joking.
I know, I could tell.
I know, but we don't get to see it though.
That's okay.
I thought it looked great from my perspective.
Okay.
It's okay. We'll find out in real time with the rest of the world. We'll have a collective experience. It'll be great.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll come back here and I'll come back on and do a show and tell and tell you what didn't make it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Ooh.
There we
Hello.
go. We're gonna hold you to that. So before we go, let's do some plugs. Jeff, Ashton, Ken, or Troy, Ashton, Ken. Is there
It's Troy
anything?
Jeffrey. That works too.
Is there anything that you want to plug, and where can people find you online? So let's start with Troy.
Actually, I just want to remind people that we also did an interview with Ken Lashley, and he was nice enough to do a drawing while I sat there and talked to him for an hour. And he definitely gave us a little story about the origin of Lead Killer, and on top of that, his stories about Infinity War spoilers, but much more. So definitely check that out interview. Go on YouTube and click on Previews World, and just type in Ken Lashley's name on top of that, and you'll find that interview because that's a lot of fun. There you go. And also, since Hush came up twice, the panel, I want to give Anna Mia and her crew a shout out because they did an episode. The first episode of the panel was Batman Hush, so check that out. Even though I'm not on it because I have too strong opinions about Batman Hush.
It would have lasted way too long.
It would have.
All right, Ashton, what about you?
Yeah, you can find me online, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Free Comic Book Day. We're just hanging out, talking about our favorite comics, favorite Free Comic Book Day memories. And then when we do finally pick a scheduled date to celebrate, you'll be able to find it on our social media pages as well as on the Free Comic Book Day website and in the newsletter if you're subscribed to that.
Perfect. Because I know I'm excited for Free Comic Book Day to come back. I'm waiting. All right. And Ken, is there anything that you want to plug, and where can people find you online?
My group, which is Ken Lashley, Art of Ken Lashley, aka Lead Killer, and on Instagram at Lead Killer, which is my brand name. I'm always in there doing live streams, doing stuff for people, having some fun jokes. But I want to show you one more thing before I get out of here, because there's two things. This was the first drawing I did for my live stream for a store local to me, and I just wanted to showcase it here, right here.
Yeah,
it's one of the fun things that I show. It's boxed up and sent out. I'm doing the best I can, but those are the places where I'm doing most of my work these days. I'm working on cool things. I'm working for Blizzard Entertainment right now.
Oh, nice.
I'm working on things. I can't tell you what that's going to be cool. I'm also working with doing some cutscenes for a Marvel video game as well as drawing Spawn. And I'm going to be announcing here. I'll probably say it straight here. I'm going to do something with heavy metal. So it's going to be pretty cool.
Okay.
Look at that. Ken, with all the things to look forward to. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that about does it for Comic Talk. I want to thank all of our guests for joining. We'll be doing this every Friday at 4 p.m. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can get notified when we go live. Also, tune in on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. for Previews Game Night, where we get together and play some games where you can actually join the audience and play along. And every Wednesday is Previews World Weekly, also at 4 p.m. You can find all these shows by checking out Previews World on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Until next time, remember, not all heroes wear capes, but right now a lot have to wear masks. See y'all next week.